Okay, so this is the 10th and final lesson of our fractions unit, and it's called Using Equivalent Decimals, and it's based off of Math Focus 5, pages 244 to 245. Now, there isn't too much new to this lesson that you haven't learned from the previous lesson, except for the fact that the questions you get will be comparing decimals and fractions that are not alike at all. And what I mean by that is that the decimals might go to the tenths place or the hundredths place or the thousandths place, and it won't match up with a fraction, which is either at a 10, a 100, or a 1,000. So here's a prime example of it. It says, Desmond read about a past NHL hockey season on the internet. Each team played the same number of games. The Edmonton Oilers won about 0.433 of their games. So that's 433 thousandths, which I wrote in the chart down here. 0.433, 433 thousandths. It also says that the Vancouver Canucks won about 6/10ths of their games. So what we're comparing here is 433 thousandths and 6/10ths. It's a little difficult to compare, so we need to bring them on the same playing field at the same level. So I'm going to take my Vancouver Canucks fraction of 6/10ths and I'm going to put it into a chart. So 6/10ths is 0.6. Still, I need to compare 6/10ths to 433 thousandths. I have it as a decimal, but they still don't really match. Now I'm going to show you how I'm going to express 6/10ths in a decimal square. So I'm going to turn this to tenths, and I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6/10ths. 10 pieces, 6 of them are shaded. That represents for, say, 10 games the Vancouver Canucks played, they won 6 of them. Okay? Now, as a thousandths, it's the same. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 thousandths. So for every 1,000 games the Canucks play, they won 600 of them. Now, these are equivalent decimals, 0.6 and 0.600. The only difference here is this square is chopped into big pieces of 10, and this one is chopped into little pieces of 1,000. It could also be hundreds, and nothing would change. It'd just be 60 out of 100. So 60 games out of 100 they win. So this is what I mean by equivalent decimals. So going back to our lesson, it asks us to express 0.433 as a fraction. Well, it's 433 thousandths, so I just have to write 433 over 1,000. 433 thousandths is the equivalent fraction for 0.433. Now, 6/10ths, they want us to create a fraction out of 1,000, so it matches up with this. And I can do that by adding 2 zeros on the bottom, like so. But if I do that to the denominator, I have to do it to the numerator. So I end up with 600 out of 1,000. If I want to write 600 over 1,000 as a decimal, it's similar to 0.6, except I have to tack 2 zeros on, just like I do up here in the chart. 600 thousandths is the same as 0.600. So based on this information, matching them up, Oilers won 0.433 of their games. The Canucks won 0.600. So 433 thousandths, 600 thousandths. 433 out of 1,000, 600 over 1,000. That tells us that Vancouver won the greater portion of its games. Let's take a look at checking. So checking points out that last year, 5/10ths of the students in Madeline's class played soccer. This year, 0.30 of the students in her class play soccer. How does the portion of soccer players last year compare to the portion of soccer players playing this year? Use grids to explain. Well, before we go to the grids, let's take a look at what we're trying to compare here. We're comparing a fraction with a denominator of 10 with a decimal that goes to the hundredths place. So this is 30 hundredths and 5/10ths. What we need to do is turn the fraction into a decimal that matches the hundredths, or we have to turn the decimal into a fraction that matches the tenths. This is easier than it looks. 5/10ths and 0.30. So on my chart, I go 0.30 is also the same as 0.300. 5/10ths would be here. So I punch in 5 It's 0.5. So I have the decimals equal now. I got 0.5 and 0.300. But I still want to make sure they match up. Remember what I said, you could add zeros to the end of them. So 0.50 is the same as 0.5, and 0.500 is the same as 0.50 and 0.5. So we can compare them and realize that 0.300 and 0.500 are decimals that are on the same wavelength, and it shows us that 5 tenths is greater than 3 tenths, 50 hundredths is greater than 30 hundredths, and 500 thousandths is greater than 300 thousandths. If we were to write these as decimals, as fractions, it would be 5 over 10, which we already had, and 3 over 10, 3 tenths. Because remember, 0.30 is 30 hundredths. 3 tenths is the same as 30 hundredths. Now, if I was to compare these on a grid, it might help make a bit more sense. So we got 5 tenths here, but it can also become 5 hundredths and 500 thousandths. Same with this one, only difference being here's 3 tenths, 30 hundredths, 300 thousandths. 5 tenths, 50 hundredths, not 500 hundredths or 5 hundredths, 50 hundredths, 500 thousandths. And that's how we compare these decimals, equivalent decimals. So let's go back to our question. It asked, how does this portion of soccer players from last year compare to this year? Well, if we're comparing the fractions, last year 5 tenths of the students were playing soccer. This year 3 tenths are. 5 tenths take away 3 tenths is 2 tenths. The same goes here. 50 hundredths and 30 hundredths. 50 take away 30 is 20 hundredths or 2 tenths. So the portion of soccer players this year is 2 tenths less than last year's portion. I hope this is clear, and if you have any questions, you may contact me on Microsoft Teams or via email. Thank you.